we need to acknowledge the upfront truth about the metabolic science, that how much calories we inject versus the how much calories we burn is the core fundament in the business of fat loss. And we need to accept this calories in and calorie out formula. But we can also accelerate the calories burned by the number of things in response of exercise and food. But first, let's understand how the fat is converted into the energy. There are two-step process. The step one is fat modulation. Our fat stored in the body contains the fatty acids and the glycogens, and they are bind together with the help of bond. So simply we need to break this bond and move the fatty acids into the bloodstream and eventually in the cells. But once the fatty acids moves in the cell, they are still not burned up, and that's when the step 2 comes in, the fat oxidation. The fatty acids in the cells need to be oxidized by moving them into the mitochondria, and with the help of nervous system, this oxidation and modulation process happens. The hormone epinephrine is released from the neurons, which are bind together with the fatty acids and glycogens, and this adrenaline helps in breaking those fatty acids and glycogen bonds and also helps in the oxidation process. To stimulate the epinephrine hormone, we need movement, and shivering is a strong example for releasing of epinephrine. The sudden movement of whole musculatures triggers the release of epinephrine in the body that helps in oxidation and modulation process at the highest stage, by which we can fat loss at the maximum speed. Shivering is an example by which this epinephrine releases at the most. So how can we get the shivering in our body? Simply by the cold. And to get cold, we can use the ice baths. First we go in the ice baths, stay for some times and then get out, but we do not dry off. We again go in the same bath and get out, and once we do this for 3 times or 3 sets of this, our body is at maximum shivering stage and the release of epinephrine is the highest. Exercise at high intensity for shorter period of time releases the epinephrine from the neurons. But some people ask, does fasting help with the exercise? Now the science says if we have done the intermittent fasting and we are exercising at the high intensity for shorter period of time, there is no add-on or there is no more fat loss in the body. But this is not the case for low zone cardio. If we have done the low zone cardio, for the first 90 minutes our body is using glucose from the liver, but after the 90 minutes our body is using the fatty acids. And it only depends if we have done the intermittent fasting or not, because if we have done the intermittent fasting, the fatty acids are used, and if we have eaten before the exercise, our body is using the insulin and glucose from the meal we have. So eventually epinephrine is the core effector in accelerating the fat loss. Caffeine is also effective in the process of oxidation and modulation when taken prior to the exercise, because the combination of exercise and caffeine releases the adrenaline at the highest, and doctors suggest only 100 to 400 mg of caffeine is suggested in a day.